I'm Zoraya Hayes, 27, a shadow in my own family, forgotten while my parents, Clara and Thomas, crowned my sister Sophie their queen. They cursed me when Ethan vanished, branded me broken, blind to the truth. He crumbled under their weight, not mine. My secret? I forged an empire in silence. 2 million souls cling to my YouTube channel, Healing Hearts, where I mend the wounded, my non-profit, a quiet rebellion they'll never suspect. Then Sophie's engagement party arrived, her text a slap. Don't ruin this. I'd had enough. I stormed her glittering night, unleashed a video that tore their lies apart, Sophie's venomous, "You're a nobody," echoing as their gasps filled the air. I left them shattered, my freedom ablaze. Curious how I spun their contempt into victory? Stay with me. You won't believe what unfolds. I perch on a worn chair in my tiny Port Haven apartment, the waves slamming against the shore beyond my window, a restless pulse that matches my own. My desk spills with chaos, a laptop flickering with light, a camera nestled among crumpled notebooks, a microphone poised like it's waiting to speak. This cluttered corner is my refuge, the only place I've ever truly owned. I'm Zoraya Hayes, 27, the eldest daughter in a family that forgot me. My parents, Clara and Thomas, built a throne for Sophie, my 24-year-old sister, their flawless jewel who twirled through life in her recital dress, sequins flashing under stage lights while the crowd roared. I stood backstage once, clutching a poem I'd written, but Clara's voice sliced through me. "You're not made for much, Zoraya," she said, her words a cold blade. They branded me a failure after Ethan slipped away 3 years ago, his goodbye a muffled echo in my skull. Sophie's victories piled up, college cheers ringing in my ears, while my sketches and whispers faded into their silence. The ache sits heavy in my chest, a bruise I've learned to live with. Yet tonight feels different. I glance at my laptop where Healing Hearts pulses with 2 million followers, a secret army hanging on my midnight truths. They don't know my family. They've never guessed at the lives I've stitched back together, the empire I've raised from their shadows. My fingers brush the camera, its cool weight steadying me, and I spot an unopened envelope on the desk, Sophie's sharp handwriting scrawled across it. My pulse quickens. I've been their ghost too long, drifting through their contempt, but the air hums with something new. The waves outside roar louder, urging me forward, and I feel it. A spark, a pull I can't yet name. I've hidden here, pouring my soul into videos they'll never see, but that envelope stares back, daring me to break free. I lean forward, the chair groaning beneath me, and draw a slow breath. The subscriber count ticks up, a quiet heartbeat of proof, and I know this is where it begins. My story, my fight, my chance to step into the light they've denied me. I rise to Port Haven's muted dawn, the harbor cloaked in a veil of mist that presses against my window, swallowing the horizon whole. Each day unfurls like a frayed thread, a fragile balance I navigate above the same old thorns. Clara's words from yesterday still burn, her venom dripping slow. She said, "You lost Ethan because you'll never be enough, Zoraya." The sting burrows deep, a splinter I can't pluck out. Thomas slumps over his mug, his gaze sliding past me like I'm a smudge on the glass, while Sophie sweeps through, her giggle a barbed hook snagging my edges. They've carved me into their failure, the girl too flawed to keep a man, pinning Ethan's exit on some defect they conjured. I see him in flickers, his shoulders sagging under their relentless prodding, a collapse they've twisted into my shame. I don't fight back anymore. I slip away to my haven, the apartment's hush folding over me as twilight bleeds into the walls, thick and velvet. That's when I ignite. I flick on the lamp, its honeyed glow pooling over my desk, dancing across the tools of my unseen war. Healing Hearts hums alive, a beacon cutting through the night, 2 million souls tethered to my voice. I hit record, my pulse settling, and unravel the lessons I can't share with them. I teach how to rise when you're crushed, how to reclaim air when they've stolen it. The replies pour in. "You're my compass," one says. "This keeps me going," another adds. Each is a lifeline knitting my tattered seams. My nights fuel a silent uprising, pouring coins into city corners where broken spirits mend, their voices weaving through dim-lit rooms I'll never see. Clara would sneer, call it folly, blind to the hope I've sown, the fractures I've fused through this glowing frame. I lean closer to the mic, my whisper threading strength into the stillness, and it holds me steady. But the facade I wear gnaws at me. I glimpse myself in the window, cheeks gaunt from years of swallowing their barbs, and question how long I can bend before I break. The mist outside coils tighter, a restless shroud, and a tremor stirs in my core, sharp and unyielding. I've forged something true here, a legacy they'd scoff at, but it teeters on a whisper's edge, brittle against their roaring scorn. My ledger lies open, its tally of lives touched climbing, a testament they'd shred without a glance. I snap it shut, the sound a quiet thunder, and sink into the chair, its frame creaking beneath my weight. Sophie's envelope lurks in the corner of my eye, unopened, its presence a taunt amid the clutter. I leave it there, untouched. The city thrums beyond these thin walls, a pulse of hidden fires like mine, and I feel the ground shifting beneath me. Their game of tearing me down and hoisting her up has frayed to its limit. I'm weary, not of resisting, but of cloaking what I am. A storm brews, and I'm not sure I want to cage it anymore. I linger by my window, Port Haven's skyline smoldering crimson as dusk ignites the rooftops, a restless blaze that quickens my blood. The city pulses below, its glow fracturing through the twilight like embers flung from a dying fire. But my stillness fractures too. Sophie's envelope slid under my door at dawn, its edges worn as if it carried years of weight. I rip it apart, the paper splitting with a hiss, revealing her engagement party invite with Noah, her polished prize. My phone jolts alive, her text blazing across the screen. "Don't mess this up, Zoraya." My chest tightens, breath snagging on a fury I've buried too long, and the past crashes in. Sophie's giggles slicing through our old house like a silver dagger, Clara's orders to fade so Sophie could blaze, her shadow choking my roots. I crush the invite, my nails biting into my palms, and Ethan flickers behind my eyes. They swore I drove him off, too brittle to hold him, but the truth flares sharp. He staggered under their relentless leash, a fact they've drowned in their own deceit. Rage floods me, molten and alive, and I know I won't kneel again. I'll stride into that party, not their wraith, but a tempest they'll feel. The decision steadies my trembling hands, and I pivot to my desk, its chaos a mirror of my mind, cords tangled, papers strewn. I wake my laptop, its hum a low growl, the screen casting a stark light that cuts through the gloom. Healing Hearts stares back, my sanctuary, my sword, 2,000,000 threads woven into my defiance. They've never glimpsed it, never heard the voices I've hoarded. Clara's venom snared in a call I couldn't erase. Sophie's barbs from a birthday I'd taped to survive. My own fractured pleas from nights I clawed back from the brink. I weave them now, my fingers flying, crafting a tapestry of their ruin and my rise. The city's hum fades, swallowed by the roar in my ears, a rhythm driving me forward. I won't just appear, I'll shatter them. Sophie's "don't mess this up" loops, a taunt I twist into a grin. Does she still see me as that girl shrinking beneath her throne? I save the file, the snap of the key a crack of lightning, and ease back, my chair swaying under me. The sky blackens, stars piercing the dusk like shards of glass, and a certainty surges within me, fierce and unyielding. I've danced their steps, let their knives carve deep, but this invite isn't their chain, it's my fuse. My hands hover over the keys, heat thrumming through my veins, and I feel the shift. They've shoved me here, to this precipice, and I'm poised to soar. I murmur into the stillness, "You'll see me now," the words a blade honed in the dark. This isn't their tale to spin anymore, it's mine, and I'm ready to etch the next stroke. I hunch over my desk, Port Haven's midnight chill creeping through the seams of my walls, a shiver tracing my spine as the city slumbers beyond. The days since Sophie's text have melted into a relentless whirl, my hands sculpting a blade from the wreckage of my past. I've clawed time from the shadows, weaving Clara's venom into a reel that thrums with raw honesty. Her hissed warnings, snagged from an old voicemail I couldn't scrub away, crackle with menace. Sophie's voice cuts in next, her sneer from that birthday tape slashing through the haze, a scar I'd muffled until this moment. My own whispers, jagged and unguarded from solitary nights, bind it together, proof of the fire I've kindled in their darkness. I scratch a speech onto a torn page, my pen rasping like a pulse, each word a pledge to strip their illusions bare. The screen pulses, my work finished, and I save it with a breath that hardens into iron. The party waits, a flare on the edge of tomorrow, and I'm poised to torch their gilded lies. I rise with the sun, the harbor framed by a sky of cold steel, and slip into a charcoal gown that clings like a second skin, its stark lines a quiet defiance against their extravagance. The venue looms on the cliffs, a crystal citadel aglow with amber, waves snarling at its base. I step through the doors, the air heavy with jasmine and chatter, Sophie luminous in ivory, her hand resting on Noah's arm like a trophy claimed. Clara and Thomas circle her, their grins honed to perfection, blind to the gale I've brought. Voices murmur around me, they whisper, "Zoraya's still adrift." I let the words drift past, my fingers tightening around the USB in my pocket, its corners digging into my palm. Sophie's gaze locks with mine, a glint of frost beneath her shine, a silent decree to fade away. I return a smile, edged and unyielding, and glide toward the sound booth, my heels whispering over polished marble. The tech looks up, indifferent, and I mutter about a gift for the bride, my tone smooth as granite. He nods, passing me the reins, and I slot the drive in, my heartbeat a tempest roaring through my chest. I think of Clara's disdain, Sophie's pedestal, the years I let them shape me, and my will sharpens to a razor's point. I whisper to the dimness, they'll despise me. My reflection glints in the booth's glass, and I laugh, low and wild. Let them choke on it. I've carried their burden too long, let their scorn seep into my bones, but this is my reckoning to command. The crowd hums beyond the glass, a chorus of clinking crystal and swelling laughter, a fragile harmony I'll shatter. My finger rests above the play button, the air buzzing with the weight of what's next, and I feel the cliffs tremble beneath me, a rhythm echoing my own. Healing hearts grew in the cracks they ignored, my soul stitched into its frame, and they never cared to look. Now they'll have no choice. Sophie's warning lingers, a brittle jest, and I savor its bitter tang. She thought I'd stay her puppet. I scan the room, their faces alight with revelry, ripe for the breaking. The booth's confines tighten, a crucible of my own forging, and I taste the hush before the plunge. This isn't spite. It's my truth unveiled. I press play and my voice spills forth, a spark destined to devour their night. I brace myself in the sound booth, Port Haven's cliffs quivering under my soles as the party's chatter filters through the glass, a brittle hum ripe for rupture. I press play and my voice surges into the room, a molten thread piercing their joy. This is for the invisible, the ones told they're nothing. The screen overhead flares to life, my montage unfurling like a storm of sparks, Clara's venom hissing from that trapped voicemail, each word a whip I'd once flinched beneath. Sophie's sneer from the birthday tape, her laugh a thorny vine I'd swallowed whole. My own truths, cracked yet defiant, from nights I'd clawed my way back to myself. The air snaps taut, breaths catching as heads whip upward, eyes glinting in the amber glow. Clara reels, her glass crashing to the marble in a splintered wail, the sound devoured by the rising tide. Thomas gapes, his stammer a broken hinge, a pillar buckling under its own weight. Sophie lunges, her cry a jagged shard. "Stop it now!" But the reel spins on. Ethan didn't abandon me. He fled their chokehold, a truth that shatters their fragile frame. The guests churn, whispers erupting into a gale, and then my trump card lands. Sophie's voice, icy and precise from a buried past, slices through. She hisses, "You're a nobody, Zoraya." A dagger I'd kept sheathed until it could flower into this reckoning. The crowd gasps, a wave cresting, their gazes pinning Sophie as her ivory shine wilts. Noah's brow furrows, his arms stiffening against hers, a fracture flickering in his stare. I step from the booth, the latch snapping shut like a gunshot, and stride into the fray, mic gripped like a blazing ember in my hand. My heart pounds, a thunderclap in my chest, but my words carve the silence. "I'm not here to ruin your night, Sophie," I say, my voice a blade honed to its peak. "I'm here to seize mine." The room splits, cheers explode, a fierce roar rattling the crystal above. Murmurs coil, a thread of awe I weave into my stride. Clara's face contorts, fury and ruin warring in her eyes, her fingers raking the air for a grip she's lost. Thomas retreats, his steps a stagger into oblivion, his reign undone. Sophie's glare sears, her mask sloughing off, and I see the chasm I've torn through their dominion. I turn, my gown swirling like ash in the wind, and cut through the throng, their voices a cyclone whipping at my heels. The cliffs tower beyond the glass, the oceans snarl a deep chant under the tumult, and I step into the night, salt stinging my lips as my phone buzzes faintly in my pocket, a whisper of the storm to come. My lungs expand, not with dread but with liberation, a burden I dragged too long crumbling to dust. Healing Hearts stands exposed, my refuge turned reckoning, and they can't erase it now. 2 million have heard me, but tonight, this hall knows my name. Sophie's nobody stings less, a husk I've split wide, and I grin, bold and unbound. The stars fracture the sky, a lattice of fire overhead, and I plant my feet firm, no longer sinking in their mire. Ethan's shadow fades, their lie about him charred to ash, and I feel the cliff's edge steady me. The venue's light dwindles behind, a flame snuffed by the void, and I press forward, the breeze tugging my hair like a conspirator. My truth has roared, not murmured, a force that cracked their bedrock. I glance back, Clara, Thomas, and Sophie silhouetted in their ruin, a dynasty teetering on the brink I've forced them to face. My phone hums again, a pulse of #Healing Hearts rising, and I don't pause. The night unfurls vast, a realm I've wrested free, and I claim it, my silhouette sharp against the dark. This wasn't their fall, it was my dawn. I stride along the cliffside trail, Port Haven's dawn igniting the skyline in ribbons of blazing copper, a fierce shimmer that sears the salt-drenched breeze against my skin. Last night's upheaval trails me, a jagged hum of broken illusions, but my gait feels unbound, freed from shackles I'd shattered. My phone jolts awake in my grip, its screen erupting with a deluge. Clara's choked wails drowned by the crowd's thunder, Thomas's hunched escape snared in grainy clips, Sophie's collapse framed in a viral haze, Noah turning away as her hand slips from his. Healing. Hearts blazes across the void, a tempest unleashed online, my followers' cries surging. "You're a force!" They're done. I scroll, my pulse spiking at the swell I'd planted in shadow, now breaking wide, a tide I'd never dreamed would crest so soon. The venue's shell recedes behind me, a hollow relic scorched by my reckoning, and I halt where the ground shears off to the sea. The wind braids through my hair, a soft untangling, and I let the quiet flood my veins. A tear slips free, not sorrow, but freedom, tracing a cool path down my cheek as Clara's sobs, Thomas's stumbles, Sophie's ruin flicker through me, not victory but a lens on their rot. I'd unraveled their weave, left them grasping at frayed ends. I press forward, pebbles snapping under my tread, and sense the load dissolve, a gradual sloughing like petals from a stem too long bent. My phone pings again, Ethan's words flashing up. I should have stayed. I'm sorry. They dangle, frail and faded, a specter I'd once chased. I swipe them into oblivion, my touch resolute, and watch him vanish in the morning's glare. He's not my tether. I'm my own haven now. The city stirs below, its towers piercing the light like molten spears, and I summon Healing Hearts, my sanctuary turned sword. I'd spun hope into the abyss, crafted a refuge for the lost, and last night I seized it as my own. My voice from the video resounds in my skull. Healing's not theirs to give, it's yours to take. And it roots deep, a creed burned into my core. I climb a rise, the ocean unfurling vast before me, its expanse a mosaic of splintered dawn, and I stand firm, no longer their whisper, but my own echo. The party was my crucible, and I stepped out forged, not singed. Sophie's crown lies split, her rule rocked by the rift I drove through it. Noah's retreat a crack in her reign. Yet I feel no thrill, only a calm unshackling, a lock sprung loose. Clara and Thomas flail in their wreckage, their verdict muted by the debris of their own crafting, and I release them, phantoms dwindling in the sun's ascent. My lungs fill, deep and unshaken, and I taste the sea's bite, a vow to shape what's mine. The horizon yawns open, a field ripe for my mark, and I know I've crossed a threshold, not their wall, but my gate. I'd been their pawn, their wraith, but now I'm Zoraya, upright and whole. A tear gleams again, caught in the dawn's embrace, and I smile, steady and sure. The light bathes the cliffs in a radiance that feels like redemption, hinting at battles won and paths yet to blaze. This isn't their tale to rewrite, it's mine, tempered in the inferno I sparked, and I'll wield it onward, not as their shade, but as my own flame. I perch on a driftwood log by Port Haven's shore, the midday sun forging a helm of molten amber over the sea. Its fierce gleam ignites the horizon's edge. Months have woven a new thread since that night, a fabric of quiet triumphs stitched into my bones. My phone lies still in my lap, its tempest of healing hearts calmed into a vibrant hum. My channel pulses stronger, a current brimming with fresh voices. Each reply is a spark fueling my fire. "You've freed me," one says. "Don't ever dim," another adds. My nonprofit stretches wider, its tendrils threading solace through the city's unseen seams. It's a testament they can't unravel. I dig my toes into the sand, its warmth grounding me, and feel the ocean's sigh merge with my own. It's a cadence I've seized. Clara and Thomas have vanished into their silence, their echoes lost in the rubble I left. It's a void I don't chase. Sophie's reign splinters. Posts blaze with Noah's exit, his shadow gone from her side. It's a breach I sparked but won't bridge. I harbor no venom, only a peace where their weight once pressed. The air quivers, laden with salt and promise, and I recall that party. It was my anvil of truth and flame. It forged me anew, not them, and I've strode onward. My trail is a streak of radiance piercing the mist. Healing Hearts burns bright now, its light unveiled. It's a torch I wield with every breath I share. I rise, the sea's fringe lapping at my feet, and set my camera on its tripod. Its eye glints like a beacon in the sun. I press record, the lens flaring alive, and grin. My voice is clear as I say, "You're enough." The words soar out, a vow I've forged, and the replies rush in. They're a tide of voices mirroring mine. The shore stretches boundless, its rhythm a hymn to battles claimed and won, and I know this isn't their script to rewrite. It's my dawn ablaze. Sophie's crown lies shattered, a ruin she built, and Noah's absence seals her fall. Yet I feel no tug to witness it crumble. Clara and Thomas grasp their dust, but I've released them. Their embers swept by a gale I've tamed. The sun arcs higher, casting the sand in veins of fire, and I stand rooted. My foundation is sown in earth I've reclaimed. A new dream glints ahead, a horizon I'll chase with hands unbound. This tale is mine, a blaze I've kindled. It's a light I'll bear into every rising tide. I've learned that healing doesn't come from others' hands. It's a flame you kindle deep inside, a power you seize when they try to snuff you out. That night, I turned their glittering stage to dust taught me this. My worth isn't their gift to give, but a fortress I built from their ruins. Every wound they carved shaped my strength, every taunt fueled a light they couldn't dim. You don't need their cheers to rise. Your voice, bold or soft, claims your space. What about you? Ever had someone box you in, only to watch you break free? Share your story below. I'm eager to hear how you forged your own glow. Let's fan these flames together. Join me next time as we chase bold horizons, side by side. Until then, shine on, you're enough.